Here,
Yeah.
you do the window raisey, lowery part. It goes like this. There you go. That's a jib door.
That's good. We're the best.
Aren't we the best?
Aren't we the best?
It's our 5th anniversary.
Yeah, hey people. Hi, hello friends. Today is 5 years, exactly today, right?
Exactly today, 5 years since we started the Instagram account.
This community,
Yeah.
our Instagram account that started out as Saving the Big Little House.
Yes.
So
Should we
that's
tell
exciting.
people who are kind of maybe just stumbling upon this what that was?
Sure.
The house that started all of this insanity was called the Little House because James C. Little built it. But it was a huge house.
But it was big.
Enormous. So the account started out as Saving the Big Little House. And that's the one that's in our opener that you see all the time, et cetera,
Louise
and
is her
so
name.
forth. Yes. It's so funny because people still are like, I miss Louise, and oh, when Louise is gone, and when Louise died, and we're 5 years in, so I feel like I can tell you this. I'm gonna hold your hand when I say it. I was Louise.
Don't you say it. That house could talk.
It was always me.
The house channeled through you.
Is that what it was?
I'm sure.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
We'll go with that.
All right, well, it's our Hope Farm
Yes,
update.
Hope Farm update.
And we want to let you know what's going on here. As you can see behind us, look at this. Look at this. Look at this. That's actual paint.
Actual paint, not primer.
Actual paint. So the front porch is really coming along. We'll show you kind of where we are. We could probably have a week or two left, I guess, if you include the shutters and doors and some more trim we got to put out.
We'll be pushing it really hard to have it ready to go by Pilgrimage, which is the last week in March, first weekend in April. By ready to go, I mean we would like to have the facade looking complete, and I think we're going to be pushing it hard to get that done because of all the work still to do on the windows. But this is the first time so Hope Farm burned March the 23rd of 2023. We bought it in July of 2023. Am I right?
Yeah.
We did not
That's
really
right.
get to start work until January of 2024. So right now, as of yesterday at about 6 o'clock, is the first time in 2 years that there is no evidence of fire on the facade of Hope Farm, which is huge.
Very, very cool.
I think we should revisit some of the just post-fire pictures so you can see how far it has come in those 2 years.
Yeah, and I mean, it looks rough, but, you know, the front didn't really burn. There were lots of signs of burn. There was a little bit of burn in the
I think you've
middle
forgotten
there.
how bad it looked up here.
Well, I mean, all the doors were intact.
That's true.
None of the wood burned or even charred on the outside.
That's true. That's true.
So there were lots of signs, and of course, signs from the water that they tried to put it out with. But
So much
overall,
soot.
you know, you drive up and you're like, I thought it burned. It just looks really dirty and black.
Yeah. It was black across the front. It was just black, which just made it so dark and so sad and so depressing. And then, you know, we have to address the fact of the yellow, which it's been yellow since 1926. At least we found layers and layers and layers of yellow, but that's not the color it always was. And so she has undergone a monumental facelift.
Right. So especially in the last, I'd say a lot harder in the last month.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been working on this front for a long time, but let's tell them all the things we've done. Now, so we took all of this woodwork that you see, all of the window surrounds and the door surrounds back to wood. Took all of the coats of paint off and completely got those back to wood, sanded and sanded and sanded and scraped
and scraped and scraped and scraped.
Stripped and got
Little
all of
tiny
that.
dental tools.
Yeah, I mean, you're using dental tools, especially in the little cove.
Well, let's talk about why we did that, though. First of all, part of the reason was there was so much heat damage to the paint that a huge majority of the paint was bubbled up, and so it had to be stripped. But then once you start removing that has to be stripped, you realize there are so many coats of paint that you've lost tons of your detail. Even though this house doesn't have a lot of detail, you've lost a lot of your profiles, and you know, it's just not good to keep adding and adding and adding and
yeah.
adding and adding. And you had lead paint, oil paint, latex, oil, latex, oil. I mean, it was just layer after layer of different types of paint. So the adhesion wasn't good anymore. It was just time to clean it off, reveal those profiles again.
Yeah.
I have this new toy. Wonderful. Actually, so I got to give credit what credit is due. My friend at Man with a Hammer on Instagram put me onto this. He saw me trying to clean the paint in these crevices, and he was like, girlfriend, get you one of these. And then I did, because when you're in these little tiny crevices, it's really hard to get the paint out. There's no sandpaper that's small enough. There's no stripper that's good enough, and trying to get it out is impossible. So you get you a pressurized steam cleaner and you go after that stripper, and it's cleaning it right out of these cracks. It's awesome. Then we could condition the wood, give it a good linseed oil bath.
Is that what a bath does?
That's what a linseed oil bath does.
Okay, that's how you.
Just a linseed
It kind of looks
oil.
like it's a washing machine or
Yeah,
something right there.
right.
I like that.
That's not like a regular bath. That's this.
Oh, okay.
But sometimes when you scrape and scrape and scrape and you get all of the paint off of wood, you discover things that you maybe didn't want to know.
Yeah, you're talking about the column that
I'm
was...
talking about the whole porch.
Oh, well, the rot. Oh, yeah. There was a lot of rot.
And we just kept finding it.
Rot. Yeah.
Fester, rot.
Yeah, I mean, we were trying, we cleaned off some of the green growing, whatever that was.
Well, actually, how it all happened, how it all started.
What happened was
I was in the process of removing paint. We'd been doing paint removal everywhere, and the handrails on the balustrade had a lot of heat damage. There was a lot of buckling. So I was like, this has 72 coats of green paint. I'm just gonna get my heat gun after it, and I'm gonna scrape it all off, and we'll repaint these a nice fresh coat of green paint. And what I discovered as I started removing the paint was that 90%, and I'm not even kidding,
yeah.
The entire centers of all the handrails were wood filler, and just like the very edges were still wood.
Yeah. Bumpy as heck, and yeah.
And I hate that we had to make the decision to replace them, because I do think several of them were either original or early because they had big square head nails in them. But again, the funny thing is the square head nails were sticking up through the putty. That they were like they had put the putty around the square head nails anyway. So then we decided to replace the handrails.
And then it just avalanched
It
from
snowballed
there.
from there.
Snowballs from there. Avalanched is not a word. It's not,
It is.
It's not a term.
Well,
it's
it
actually more
snowballed,
accurate.
And we felt like we were in an avalanche.
More accurate, probably, than it snowballed. But snowballed is the phrase. Anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, and we just kept finding rot. And then we found one really interesting column that we had never noticed. I mean, how many columns are out here? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 columns. And I'd never really noticed that either.
Yeah, everything's off center. We're not a symmetrical house.
No.
We do not ascribe to the Greek revival
No.
philosophy of symmetry. That's not going on here.
And had never really noticed this, but our carpenter Eddie he was replacing these handrails, and he was replacing a lot of spindles and a lot of things. And he came to us one day and he goes, "Did you notice that one column's not tapered? All the rest of them are tapered, but that one is just square as it can be."
Square.
And it does only, it only tapers about an inch, so it's not super obvious, but
if we're fixing
if you're
it,
looking,
we're gonna
yeah.
fix it correctly. And so we said, well, let's go ahead and replace the column.
Yeah.
So Eddie built us a new correctly tapered column. So now we have a new correctly tapered column.
I think the bottom of it was rotted out anyway.
It was. He had replaced the whole bottom, remember? He had cut off the bottom and had like replaced it, and then was like, this column is just wrong all the way around. So he made us a new column. You kind of in a process like this, you have to make the decision, how far are we gonna go? We've talked about it with Pearl. At some point you have to be like, at some point we stop. The trim at the top, the capitals of every one of these columns is different. I think
same thing for the back.
The one on the very end is original, and then all of the rest of them are slightly different. And so yesterday I was like, do we take them all down and redo them? But they're all slightly different. It's not like there's that one and then the rest of them are the same. No, they're all a little off. So we're just going to say this shows the evolution of the house over time, and I think we're going to be good with that, don't you?
I mean, yes, especially since when you look at the front of this house, it's got 3 doors and
they're all different heights.
5 windows, and they're all different heights. The door on the right is shorter, and then it gets taller, and then it gets taller.
Well, that's for
crazy
Mama Bear, Papa Bear, and Baby
Oh,
Bear.
that's it.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. So anyway, a lot of wood replacement, and once we got that all done, then it was time to prime everything.
Okay, after absolute weeks of scraping this woodwork, this cypress 150 plus year old woodwork down to bare wood, it's time to start priming. So I have my oil-based primer. You want to use an oil-based primer on your woodwork, but I have another little secret. I like to put some boiled linseed oil in addition to my oil-based primer, because this will help condition the wood as it's going on, and it will help smooth the primer coat. You always want to lightly sand your primer coat once you get it on there. If you put the boiled linseed oil in it, you'll have less smoothing to do of that primer coat. So we're about to get started. Let go.
First of all, I'm a delight.
That's right. Forget it. My Delight shirt now has paint all over it. That seems appropriate.
It's really kind of appropriate for everything you own to have paint all over.
It is. I should just, when I buy clothes, I should just take them and put paint on them to start with. Look, I'm so cold I can't move my mouth.
Oh no. Start painting everything. We're not completely done with the painting, but we've got
And when
a
you
long
paint,
way.
you have to pick a color.
Yes, and it's so hard to get the right white. All right, Lang.
Yeah.
So, is it gonna be off-white, 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 or off-white? That's all the choices. Actually, I think we like
But it's not.
this one.
But, okay, so, first of all, they're not all off-white.
Oh.
Some of them are like gray base.
Some of them are off gray.
Are yellow base. And one of them is a blue base. I'm having a hard time. I like the left side of the doorway, and I like the left side of the window. But I'm afraid the left side of the window is too white because I don't want it like stark. I don't know. What do you think?
I think you should quote the, what's the name of that movie?
What movie? Which one?
Red, blue, white.
Oh, I want a yellow, but not a Jonquil yellow, more of a butter yellow. Mr. Blandings builds his dream house.
Yeah.
We're Mr. Blandings it right now.
Yep.
Like, I want this red, this exact color of this thread, so I don't lose it. That's how I feel. Why is white the hardest color to choose? I really think it is. So which one do you like? See the two that I like? The outside of the door.
Yeah, I like
and
the
outside of
left
window?
side of the door.
Left side of the door better
Is
than
it?
the left
Oh
side
no.
of the window?
Is that a door or a window?
Door.
The left side of the window.
I like the left side of the window?
Yeah, it's right side of the door, left side of the window.
What? No, I like the left side of the door and the left side of the window. See, there's two different ones. I like the left side of this door and the left side of this window. Did we go point at them?
But that's a window, you know?
No, that's a door. And that's a
window,
window.
door, window, window,
Oh.
door.
Well, then that's a problem.
See?
I like the left
Okay.
side of the window and the left side of the window.
Okay, I like the left side of the window.
The left side of the window. Do you like the left side of the left window? Or
I like the left
right
side of the left window.
Okay, that's the one I like to start with.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay.
Look how pretty, look.
Look at how pretty. Look how pretty.
Those are some.
It is, and I have to give a shout out to my girl Amy on Instagram. She's at Nola Paint Girl, because she saw me lamenting the choosing of the white, and she reached out. She was like, "Look, lady, every White House in New Orleans, everyone is Dove White by Sherwood Williams."
Really?
Yes, it was Amy.
Is it Dove White or White Dove?
Dove White.
Dove White? Okay.
It's, I think, OC17 is the number. Benjamin Moore. No, I said Sherwood Williams.
Yeah,
it's
it's
Benjamin
Benjamin
Moore.
Moore.
Sorry. She said, trust me on this. And I did, but I was like, let's go ahead and get 2 or 3 sample cans to look, just kind of look and make sure, because we were very worried about matching the parging color, which is the mortar lines here, the colors in the marble. We didn't want it to be weird.
Yeah, you get a different color white and it would look wrong.
Yeah. So we got 3, put them up. You know what? Amy, the professional painter, was correct. The Dove White was perfect. And so we've got 1 coat of Dove White on the whole porch, which means now we have to sand lightly and paint it again. But it feels monumental to have the one coat of Dove White on the front porch and all the woodwork.
Should we tell them a few painting techniques?
Sure.
I've got one. I know you've got 2 or 3.
Yeah.
One of the things that we will often do is we will put the paint on with a roller and then smooth it out with a brush, because you want to get the full coverage, and it's just easier to do with a roller, but you don't want to roll or texture on any finished woodwork. So that's one easy way to do it.
First coat,
right?
Especially for a first coat. We won't do that for the second coat, but we will, because you want such good saturation and coverage with that first coat.
That was primer that I was doing that with.
So the key to a long-lasting paint job and a beautiful finish is sanding. And I know that sounds crazy because you think I'm going to put paint on it and then I'm going to sand it off again. Yeah, it's exactly what you're going to do. The more you sand, the better your paint's going to adhere and the better it's going to look in that final coat. Getting a good smooth base, a little bit of texture for the paint to adhere to. It's going to last you decades. Vanna, tell us what you got. What have we won on The Price is Right?
You've won. I wish we'd won this because the stuff's expensive now. We're painting with oil paints, and so we use this flood penetrol, whatever the heck it is. It basically smooths it out, makes it go on a little smoother, thins out the paint a little bit, which is hard to get through your paint rig a lot of times, so you do want to thin that out. So we use this, gives nice smooth coat. Another thing that we do, I'm going to skip back and forth. Another thing that we do as application is we will spray some things and paint other things with a brush. Just because the spindles are easiest to paint with your sprayer. Just because it takes so long to get into all those grooves, and it just goes into all those grooves. And then most of it, the other stuff we use with the brush.
Yeah, or we often do both. So we start out on the window frames. If we're going to prime the window frames, we're going to prime those. We're going to start with the sprayer because the sprayer is going to get everything covered. But it leaves that spray texture, which we don't want. So we'll do the first coat with the sprayer, and then I'll come back with a light sandpaper. I'm going to show you here in a second. And then do a second coat, and then we start our paint coats. So it's really, the truth about paint is that the beauty of a paint job is all in the prep. It's all in the prep. I don't let him brush the paint because I'm like, I will do I'll do the whole window frame in one stroke, where he's more of an avant-garde contemporary artist, and I'm more classically trained. And both forms are beautiful.
Let's also tell them, so there's one other thing on our final coat for an exterior paint. We will put, what is that we put in to keep that's mold resistant?
Oh, conchromium. If you live in the north, you don't have this problem, but if you live in the south, you're going to put the paint on your house, and by, I don't know, August, it's going to be mildewed. Conchromium is a product that you put in your paint. I don't know what's in it. It may just be vinegar. For all I know, it's just vinegar, and I'm paying extra for the label. I don't know, but it is a additive that you put in your paint that keeps mildew and mold off your paint. It makes your paint incompatible for mildew and mold growth. We do it in Arkansas. We've done it there. We add it to all paint that we use in the South because nobody wants a moldy house. We should talk about probably the biggest change to the front of the house, which is the porch ceiling.
I know. I was thinking the same thing. We were thinking the same thing. Yes. So that was really the only evidence of fire because the middle of the ceiling was gone, collapsed,
what is
or
this,
broke
like 70
into.
feet? How long is this gallery? It's long. It's really long.
Yeah, I think it's 60 feet, right?
60 feet,
yeah.
And about 15 feet wide and deep. They punched through the ceiling to get access to the fire, through the plaster, through the lath to get access to the fire. And so there was just this big black, and then the fire, and of course the soot and the smoke had all come out, and that's why the whole porch was black and everything was just blackened. And so it was just this big gaping, yawning mouth of fire doom. And every time we drove up, no matter what we did to the front, no matter how clean we got the yard, no matter how beautiful the marbling was, no matter, all I could see was that yawning, gaping mouth of fire up there.
So that was a big deal. That made me feel really good.
Yeah.
I think that encouraged me to keep going on this porch.
Yes, absolutely. It
Get
felt
this
like,
porch
right.
done.
We did have to make some concessions on the porch that normally I would, in a perfect world with an unlimited budget, we would not have done. The paint that had been on the the porch ceiling was it's a plastinated paint that they came out with like in the 70s or 80s that actually, it's like, it makes a thick plastic coat. It's not even like latex paint. And they use it a lot on houses down by the ocean. So I was able to pull it off in huge sheets. Now it took me days because the porch, like I said, is 20 feet deep and 60 feet long on a scaffolding with the, little hand trowel scraping it off. But once I pulled it all off, I discovered that over the years, the ceiling is plaster, lath and plaster, and it had been drywall, skim coated with drywall compound. So we had a decision to make.
Do we take it all out? Because I don't know if we could have gotten all that compound out.
Oh, you can't get it
without
off.
taking the plaster off.
No, no, it would have
no
been
separation.
Take it all down and replaster, or do we just patch it? And do we skim coat again and hope for the best? And budget and time right now required tape it, skim coat it again, hope for the best. And honestly, I mean, budgets are real things with these projects. The cost of taking it all down
There's the understatement of the year.
and doing a plaster ceiling, we could redo the drywall compound on the ceiling about 22 times. We will not live long enough to spend the same amount of money redoing the drywall compound.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. Sometimes you got to say, well, that may start showing signs of wear in 10 to 15 years, and be like, well,
we'll fix it
we'll
again.
do it again in 10 to 15 years then, because we can't afford to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right.
Math.
So our friends from Lucy Plumbing came back. How many trips did they end up making to do the rough in? Because they're coming from Conway, Arkansas. It's 5 hours away.
So one day Brian came just like for the day and was like, I'm just here to kind of see what needs to be finished up. And so he drove 5 hours, stayed like an hour, and then left again. And honestly, I think Brian was just like, so he had initially said he was going to come back around the second or third week of January. And that's when he came for the one day. But we had horrible weather. We had snow and ice, both where he is in Conway and where we were. We were not expecting him to come back, but I think he felt like, I've said I'm going to come back on this, so I have to come back and just make sure they know I'm coming. But honestly, Brian, we knew you were coming back. We weren't worried. We knew you were going to come.
Yeah.
But he came last week and finished the rough-in.
Yeah. One of the things he did that we had found kind of between his two trips was he's tying into some things that are underground. So, next to digging those out and completely redoing them, we're having to rely on some of those things. One of them completely caved, and
one of them we had to dig out and redo.
Leaking. So he dug that up and put in a new water line that goes from our main switch off back to the L. And so that was kind of a big deal, but he got it done in no time.
Yeah, Brian's incredible. He does
and it's
such a
going to
good
be
job.
that'll last forever. I mean, that old metal pipe was done. There's a lot of that.
But those are the things, people, we get mad when people call restoration a money pit, but because that is such it's a money pit to me is something that's not worth it in the end, right? A money pit is something that you're just throwing wasted cash into. These projects are grossly expensive, and there are wildly expensive things that come up that you could not have anticipated. Like this was a insane expense that we could not have anticipated. There was no evidence that this was going to be a problem. But it's not a money pit, because at the end of the day, what we will have invested into this project, we're still going to come out right side up many, many, many times over. So you just have to, anytime something like that happens, you just kind of have to go, okay, but it's all right, because the house is worth it. The house is worth it.
Right.
The house is worth it.
Yes.
So it's okay.
And it'll last so long. That's always a good feeling to know you've got new product under there. Is always really good.
And again, the beauty of a project of this magnitude is all new wiring, all new plumbing, all new HVAC, all new roof. It's all, we don't have to worry about it.
But again, another example of something that we had to repair that had nothing to do with the fire. I mean, this house burned, but that pipe had nothing to do with the fire.
Yeah, who knows how long it had been leaking under there.
It's just an old house. So, another thing that we had to, there's a long list of things that we just had to repair because it's an old house.
And we're also asking systems to do things that they weren't initially designed to do. So initially this house was set up where the cottage, the L, and the main house were all on the same water. Like it was all on the same valve. If the pipe burst in the cottage, the L and the main house water went down. We've replaced all that. Brian redid it where all are separate.
And we've got like 5 shutoffs now.
5 shutoffs. We've added bathrooms. We have added an additional kitchen in the L that wasn't there. So we were calling on the water supply to do a lot more than it did initially. So, things are going to, that pipe may say, I can't handle this anymore.
It did.
You've asked too much of me.
It did. Well, and that's one other thing. That's one other thing to mention is between those trips, we decided, oh, you know what? We need a bathtub shower here and a sink here and another pot filler
and we think
here.
we might want to,
he did all
instead of
that.
this room being a bedroom, we think we might make it a kitchen.
So
and,
he did all those for us too.
He's incredible. Thank
so
you, Brian.
that's ready to go, and we're getting real close on electrical.
Electrical should be finishing up this week, right?
Yes, Marcus is coming out Tuesday, I think. And
Marcus with Criterion Construction, our man.
Yeah. We've got, handful of things to do still. I don't know. It may be a week or two's work. I'm not sure how long it's going to take.
I don't know. I don't have any idea, but I know we're really, really close. And we're going to have plumbing rough-in and electrical rough-in and probably HVAC rough-in inspections all at one time. And once that happens, we'll be clipping along at an amazing pace.
Oh, I know.
It's going to really get fast
really
at that
exciting.
point. Yeah.
Really exciting.
And of course, we thought we were here several months ago. This is the point in a restoration. I'm not as frustrated by it as I used to be, because this is the point where things start. You get halfway through your rough-in and you're like, oh my gosh, this is flying.
Yeah.
And we're going to be finishing, we'll be putting up drywall within a couple of weeks. Well, then the rough-in always
it drags.
drags and drags and drags and drags. And so
Yeah.
I've gotten to the point where I'm like, we think we might be putting up drywall by this point, but probably not.
Yeah.
Probably
Just be
not.
ready for it not to happen.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, if you had a crew of 10 people with every different service
At the
that
same
were out here
time.
working, I mean, you could knock a house out real fast, but
But unless you're
That ain't happening.
a new commercial builder, that does not happen. We're getting squeezed in
Yes.
between the big commercial
Yeah.
builders, big projects.
and
So
we do have people here every day working. They're mostly doing framing. I mean, they're framing a lot of things, building new things. John's building a ton of things right now.
Yeah, let's talk about all the things John's building.
So, he built those sashes from scrap,
Yes,
from burned wood that we took out of the house. He planed down, cut down, and turned those into our windows, which again I love. I know we've said that several times.
I don't think we can say it too much. Most of the new build that you will see in this house is made from old wood. It's made out of wood that came out of the attic or dropped from the ceilings. Most of what is here, the windows, like Kevin just said, the sashes, the column, tons of the porch. It's all been here for 250 years. It's just being utilized in a different way. And that was something we really, really have been particular about, is using old materials as much as we can. There's some areas that it's not been practical to do that, but for the most part, for our architectural elements especially. But the fire did cause us to lose entirely in the main house 5 sashes, I think.
In the back? Oh,
Not the jibs or the
not the back
Not the
gallery,
back.
but 5. I think 5 is right.
And
yes.
so John has completely recreated those in the historic fashion. We had them glassed and glazed.
Our friends at Quality Glass, who are amazing.
Yes, that sounds like they did it for us for free. They did not.
No, they didn't do it for free. But they're good people.
Yeah, the front window, we did use wavy glass for the one sash in the front window that had to be replaced. Any of the front room windows, we're using wavy glass. It's so expensive and so hard to source that for the rest of the ones that we replaced, we went ahead and just did modern tempered glass. But we'll start the process of putting in the windows fairly soon. Should we talk about all that has gone into taking these burned windows and making them usable again?
Yes, you worked hard on these window sashes
For weeks.
to save them. I mean, and it takes John a long time to make one. It takes you a long time to save one. Window sashes are like very intricate.
They're so intricate.
Yeah, and and then there were 2 or 3 that needed some repairs. But I mean, there's so many tiny little crevices, and Lane is digging through all of those, cleaning out all the glazing, trying to save the glass. It's hard to do.
I had about a 50-50 ratio with
On
saving
saving
the
glass.
glass. The thing with antique glass, historic glass, of course, it has bubbles in it, and anything that causes a break in the surface tension of glass is a weak spot that will cause it to break. And so if you put even the slightest pressure on a place that has a chip or a scratch, it'll break the glass. And this had already been through so much through the fire, through getting removed, that again, I was about 50-50 on saving the glass. I wasn't happy about that number, but did the best I could. Let me explain. Do you want me to explain why I'm doing this seemingly completely
There's a lot of work going into whatever you're doing.
unnecessary thing that I'm doing?
Yes, tell us why.
Because this window is glazed. It's glazed improperly. So this is our 18th century window. These muntins are very thin. They're super thin. Because of course in the 18th century, the larger a pane of glass was, the more expensive it was. And it was really only possible to blow these pretty small panes of glass. So these glazing lines should be very, very, very thin. They should run just on either side of this muntin. They should be almost unnoticeable. And whoever glazed these the last time, they're about 5 times the thickness of the muntin. And it's driving me out of my mind. I can't stand it. It's so messy, it's so badly done, and it's so thick. So I'm gonna be taking all the glazing out and then reglazing in the appropriate style for the period. I'm using aluminum foil tape and aluminum foil because the best way to get your glazing out without breaking your glass is with heat, a heat gun, and the aluminum reflects that heat. You see shiny side out, it's reflecting that heat and keeping it from breaking my glass. So a long process just to make one thing look like I think it should look. So then we went and bought, we're sourcing
glass.
We're like little crows all around
Natchez. If you're watching this and you have some old glass, some old windows, we would love the donation.
Love it. Our friend Diane at Pandora's Parlor on Instagram, she called us up. She was like, hey, I've got a few pieces. Would you like it? We said, absolutely. Then she's my Facebook Marketplace girl, she can find anything. So then she taps me, she's like, hey, this guy's selling it, and they're the size, because the panes on these windows are enormous. They're 18 by 12 for each of the 6 panes. Now that's huge. For those of you who don't know, that's larger than almost any other historic 6/6 window. She was like, he's got something that's the right size. So we went over, bought that glass, loaded it up, brought it home. We've got to have that taken out. Our friend Mac at 601 Salvaged, he brought us a big piece. He got us a thing. So I don't know that we have enough still to finish.
No, so that's why if you're watching and you have some old windows or some old glass, bring it over.
We would have happy. But we made some cool discoveries.
This seems insane.
It does seem insane, and it's kind of terrifying me a little bit. These window muntins, there are 3 houses, ours being the 3rd in Natchez in this period that we know of, that are documented, that had the muntins painted black because that made the glass panes look larger, made it look like it was one big pane of glass, which of course was more expensive. The other 2 are Magnolia Hall, which is a huge mansion, and Elms Court, which is a huge mansion. And then Little Hope Farm did it too. And we know it was like this because as I removed the paint back, layers and layers and layers, the muntins, the first original campaign was black, so we're gonna put it back black. But I've never painted anything black, and it's making me a nervous wreck. And it's oil paint, so it's runny. I'm not enjoying it. I'm not enjoying it. You're gonna laugh when I say this, but it's true. People who work with paint a lot, black paint, whatever pigments they use, it's always really runny. Every time I've worked with black paint, it tends to be like watery and runny, oil or latex. And you have to do several coats. So I'm super nervous about trying to cleanly paint these muntins with this black oil-based paint once we get the glass in. But it's gonna be worth it because it's a really unique and special feature. This house is going to look so dramatically different than it did even before the fire. Once it's done.
It really will. I love the look of it.
Oh, I do too. It's so light and bright and airy.
Well, it goes from, it's a pretty simple farmhouse. We don't have any dormers, no second floor. It's just a pretty simple house. But when you start adding elements like this, then it becomes a lot fancier.
And it's really interesting to think about how far out of town this house was in the 1830s when this was done. This house is a farmhouse, and it was out of town. It's a mile out of where now it's in the dead center of town, but it was a long way away from anything. And so to think about, they went to all of this effort to make this simple farmhouse look like one of the fancy in-town houses, and did some of the fanciest things that the biggest, fanciest houses were doing to emulate that. It just shows that keeping up with the Joneses has been a thing from the beginning of time.
From the beginning, yeah. And I'm sure we've told you all before, but we'll tell you again that this was actually referred to as Hope Farm in 1805.
1805 is the first written. The title transfers Hope Farm, its buildings and land in 1805, which then obviously to me means that it's been called Hope Farm for some time before that. So as early as the 18th century, this home. This is one of the homes with the early. It's one of the earliest homes in Natchez.
Yes.
And then I might
the earliest.
venture to say that it is the earliest named home.
Hope Farm seems like something we would have named it Hope Farm,
absolutely.
and I just wanted all y'all to know it has been Hope Farm.
You just said all y'all.
Are y'all?
All y'all. All you all is what you just said.
I want y'all know.
That cracks me up when people say all y'all.
All y'all. I want everyone, all you all to know.
And then John has made, the day that I came in and saw these was the first time I was like, oh wow, this is starting to feel like a house again. John has made all of the jams for our jib doors and our box head windows all across the back gallery and our door.
Yeah, so that was a big deal. They're not actually nailed in place yet.
But they're standing
to
there.
be standing there. I mean, it looks very finished. Oh, we put little thresholds there.
Yes, we've got jams and thresholds. And that's where the fire was concentrated in the main house. So we lost everything off of the back gallery was destroyed by the fire. So it was kind of a guessing game when we went to look and see what was here. Luckily the Banta family had video, so we could say, okay, that one was a jib door, or that one was a box head window, box head window. But two doors that had been made into doors when the fire, I don't know what it, just like a regular innie-outie door.
Yes,
I don't know.
innie-outie door. That's
the architectural term.
Yes, that's it.
When their frame burned away, the original jamb, one side of the original jamb was in place, and we could see that there had been jib doors, low innie-outie doors.
Yeah, low.
Here, you do the window raising lowery part. It goes like this. There you go. That's a jib door.
That's good. We're the best.
Aren't we the best?
Aren't we the best? Putting that up front.
We don't feel good today. Neither one of us. We both feel like garbage today.
Yeah, it's a little long at the slumber party. Huh?
Yes. So anyway, we have two jib doors, 3 box head windows, and a exterior door that's like 8.5 feet tall or some ridiculous height.
Yeah.
With 70 panes of glass in it. And so all of those jams and thresholds are in, and those were all handmade, again, out of beams from the attic, except for one. We needed one more piece of wood, right? And you and John had to go shopping.
Yeah. He needed one more piece, and it was like 2.5 inches thick. He needed it.
Yeah.
And so we just went shopping around the yard and went and found a couple of huge pieces. One was an old column. Brought those back. He cut those down, planed them down, and that's what he's using. I just love that
that we go shopping in the yard.
In the yard, yes.
Well, in the column, we had, of course, John made the 2 replacement round columns that were on the L gallery, and the wood that they went and found and used and planed down to make these other pieces were what remained of the original columns. They were not, there wasn't enough wood left for them to be columns.
They were burned pretty badly.
Well, they would have been skinny columns.
Yes, they would not have pulled up as much.
It would not have been, they were solid, they were trees.
Yes.
They probably would have been okay, but the tops were missing, and anyway, perfect for what we needed.
Yeah.
Like these 2x2, right? He needed like long.
Well, he ended up, I think it needed to be 8 by 2.5.
Okay. Yeah.
So
I saw him milling them out there.
Yeah.
It was pretty incredible. And then we got a ceiling put up.
That was a pretty big deal too.
It's a real big deal. We need to go back and remind people. I need you to put a lot of before shots in here because people need to remember what this looked like.
That there was nothing there.
Nothing.
Yes. And now we've got walls, roof, ceiling, floor,
columns.
columns,
like it's rebuilt.
railing.
I think it's good for us to go. I think you need to find that video and show me so I can remember. Because when we were looking at the pictures at the Historic Natchez Foundation yesterday, we went and got a bunch of the file of their photographs of right after the fire. I was like, man, I'd forgotten. We just kept saying, oh my gosh, I'd forgotten. And so it's good to go back and see how far we've really come. These are my butterflies.
Your bigger what?
My butterflies.
Butterfly.
See?
We're still rolling. It's, oh wow.
Well,
that's cool.
we can show this
Oh,
for everybody who's coming.
yeah.
Hang on.
You guys coming to
Restoring
our
Hope Weekend?
Restoring Hope Weekend,
I got some
March
decorations.
27th?
The decorations just keep showing up. I can't get it open.
You're gonna hurt it.
It's not a real butterfly.
You need a pocket knife.
I do need a pocket knife. Is there a real man here that has a pocket knife? I bet there is. Oh wait. I found the way to open it.
Ah,
But there is a real man here with a pocket knife. Look! Butterflies!
that's pretty cool.
Aren't they pretty? Decorations for Restoring Hope Weekend. Speaking of, we're chairing pilgrimage this year.
Yeah, if you didn't know and you thought all we were doing was painting this porch, you were wrong.
And restoring this house. You know, I don't know how to say no. We've discussed this on
It's
Instagram.
really reflecting. See?
It's a reflector.
I know,
Look
we
at
need
that.
it.
Oh, we need to bounce that light up here.
Yeah.
There we go. I don't know how to say no at all, and neither does he. Well, my problem is I don't know how to say no, and he doesn't know how to say no to me.
I don't say no to her.
Yeah, because he loved me. And we were
I
approached.
say no to anybody else.
Yeah, very happily. We were approached a few months ago to help with pilgrimage in Natchez, and we were like, sure, we're totally on board. And then it was like, and then also put your house on tour for pilgrimage, and we're like, sure, we're totally on board. And that was a mistake. I'm just gonna say it right now. That was a mistake. We're tired. We're tired. It's too much. Don't you think? Like just emotionally, physically, mentally.
Yeah, we're worn out today, that's
We're
for sure.
worn out. It's been a lot. It's going to be a great pilgrimage. Numbers, we've already tripled the numbers from last year. I'm not tooting my own horn, but I'm tooting my own horn a little bit. I'm tooting his horn. I shouldn't say that on camera.
Ooh.
I will brag on
That's
him
funny.
and his years of marketing expertise and branding and his brilliance. He put that all to play for the Pilgrimage Garden Club to promote, to reimagine and promote their pilgrimage for them. And it has already been wildly successful, just judging from the numbers. And then it's my job to make sure that the events all go smoothly. And we're really tired and have got to
That's a
learn
lot.
when to say no. Because as you can see behind us, we have an entire burned out house that we're trying to rebuild on the side right now. But these are the decorations for the Restoring Hope Weekend, and we're really excited about that.
Yes.
We can't wait.
If you don't know what
to
that
see our
is, go to
people.
our website, ourrestorationnation.com. You can learn a little bit more about it. There's one event you can still buy tickets for.
Well, and then you can come for pilgrimage and see all these
Yeah.
incredible, I should make that noise, all these incredible private homes that are never open
Why
any
don't you
other
sit that
time
down?
of the year.
Yes, pilgrimage
see.
is going to be amazing this year. Lots of new things. If you've been before, you should come again because it's going to be different this year.
We've got an Antiques Roadshow expert appraiser coming for the second weekend. So if you can't come the first weekend, for the weekend where all the parties and fun are, come the second weekend for the antique preview party. Meet James Supp, bring a thing, he'll appraise it for you. It's gonna be so much fun. Anywho, so anyway, our plates are very full. If we seem a little tired today, that's why. We're both I think we both overworked yesterday too, don't you? We were so close to getting
Probably.
the front done, but it was like we're gonna
Yeah.
see it. We're gonna see it done for the first time in 2 years, and so now we're really, really tired.
I mean, you're so good at so many things
Thank you.
that anyone could say to you, look, I have this problem. And you'd be like, I can solve that. Sure, I can solve it. And so our good friends Ruthie and Jim, who are part owners of Greenleaves, owners of Bonshura, had an issue with the wallpaper in one of their rooms.
Yeah, they had it's 111 years old. Wallpaper that Ruthie's grandmother installed right after she married in 1917. And Greenleaves had some damage from a storm, tree fell, a magnolia limb, which I don't know, those of you who don't know, magnolia wood is incredibly heavy and dense, did some real damage and caused a leak that caused the wallpaper to fall, and then it dried out, which historic wallpaper, that's a huge problem. It's very bad. It just starts to it just gets desiccated. You know the old mummy movies where they open the sarcophagus and the mummy just immediately turns to dust. That's basically what happens to historic wallpaper. If for some reason it comes off the wall, if it gets wet and then re-dries without being prepped properly, it just turns to dust. So I went over and conserved the wallpaper for them.
So you want to walk them through the steps of saving the sections that you saved?
I want to give all the shout outs and kudos to my dear, sweet friend, Brooke Russell. She is a professional architectural conservator. She works professionally for Evergreen Architectural Arts in New York, but she's also a distant cousin of mine. And I've worked with Brooke for about 5 years, and she has been so gracious to share her wealth of knowledge and teach. She's not a gatekeeper with knowledge, right? A lot of people in this field are gatekeepers with their knowledge. They feel like it gives them power to know something that you don't know. We don't feel that way. We want to share with you. Brooke is the same way. And so she's been so gracious to share her knowledge with me and then actually train me in how to do some of these things. And she's so patient when I have questions. So Brooke is the one who actually taught me how to do this conservation. So first thing we want to do, you can't do it in situ because it's 14 feet in the air. So we cut down the piece that was really in danger. First thing we had to do was mold remediation. There was a lot of mold from the water intrusion. It's hung on plaster. Plaster itself is not pH compatible to grow mold. Plaster will not grow mold. If you see mold on plaster, it is because there has been wallpaper on that plaster, and the old wallpaper paste is generally a wheat-based paste, like flour and water. That's what they used. There were a couple of other ones, but they were all organically based, and mold loves it. It's yummy. Roaches love it, bugs love it, mold loves it. So we had to get rid of all of the mold that had come in. That's the first order of business. Then once we did that, you've got to reintroduce a little bit of moisture to the paper to stop that desiccation process, to lay it back down. You can see it's curled up like a leaf. You know, the leaves fall in the fall, they fall to the ground. Some of them still are green, and then they dry up and curl up. That's what that wallpaper is doing. So we use the steamer, we gently apply steam just until it lays back down. You don't want to oversaturate it. You don't want to give it too much water. Then once it has dried again, we use a product called Clucel. It's a gel-based adhesive. We use it a lot in portraiture conservation. If we need to transfer a painting that needs to be bent or rolled for transfer, you can use this Clucel, and the conservation paper over the top of the painting keeps the paint from detaching, keeps it secure until the conservator can get to it. It also works for wallpaper. So put the Clucel on the back, this conservator's paper, and then we flip it over, piece it back together like a little jigsaw puzzle, and put it back on the wall with modern wallpaper paste. And then basically went down on the area where it had also like the entire wall of the side wall of the room had kind of shifted.
All the hands gestures.
Yeah, it had done this. Instead of doing this, it had done this. And kind of did the same process in situ in that area, laid it back down next to the windows. So it's back up. It's 111 years old.
Really good.
It still has water stains. Those can be removed, but that's a super long process. It would take me months and months and months that I don't have right now, but maybe I'll get back over there eventually and work on those water stains for them. But at least the 111-year-old wallpaper is conserved. The amazing thing about Green Leaves is it is a time capsule. It's been owned by the same family since 1838, and everything that's in it has been there. The carpets are original, the wallpapers are original, the cornices are original, the lighting, everything. Now, there are family mementos and heirlooms that have been put in the house that are newer, but even the newer items are 100 years old. And so it is a architectural and decorative arts time capsule. And you know, there were some family members who were like, well, we have a bunch of the wallpaper that Schumacher or Thibault, whatever the other, they reproduced it a few years ago. We'll just put the new wallpaper up. And that, you lose that archive of history. Once it's gone, it's gone. You cannot replace it. New wallpaper does not replace historic wallpaper, even if you copy it. So if you could ever save it, save it.
Well, it's got a few water stains, but I think it looks really good.
I love a time worn and distressed look. I'm all about it. We're gonna do a lot of things in this house that are gonna make it look time worn and distressed by the time we're done.
And if you ever see any of the work that we do, I mean, we're not replacing wood because it's been beat up.
Oh no.
you're going to see a lot of beat up, you know. But we're using the 100-year-old, 200-year-old products still.
Yeah, because that's what someone touched. It's the tangible. It's our tangible link to history.
There you go.
I'm touching what they touched 200 years ago. It's like when we're doing these windows. It's amazing to think about the last time they were out of these jams was when. So anyway,
they made it hard to get them out.
They did.
All right, so just to wrap up on the final things, Eddie and Poochie put that ceiling on the L. They framed up several different things, including the wall between the L and the main house, which is cool to see.
Yes.
So I think that's our update for Hope Farm, and probably won't be another one until you come to see us.
Yes.
For Restoring Hope Weekend for Pilgrimage here in Natchez, Mississippi. A good time is going to be had, believe me.
I will be frenetic. I will be frantic. I will be running around like a chicken with my head cut
We've got
off.
costumes.
But you will have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We do have costumes.
And you
come
could
and
wear
meet
one if you
Carlos
wanted to.
de Grand Prix at this house and his wife Helene.
Yeah, so come and see us. Thanks for supporting us. Share our video, give us a like, give us a subscription. What else? Everything else?
We're working really hard. We hope you like the house.
Bye, guys.